In this video, I show you how to shoot silhouettes on location in the middle of the day. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And today we're going to do a shoot on location, and it's a little bit different. It's going to be a silhouette shoot. Now, for silhouettes, the key word is contrast. And the easiest way to get lots of contrast on location is to shoot at either end of the day. So early in the morning, if you're a morning person, I'm not, or at the end of the day with a lovely sunset. However, it's not always possible to do that, and today is one of those days. It is in fact early afternoon. The sun is right overhead. It's not ideal for shooting silhouettes, but we're going to do it anyway. So let's get a model in, let's get shooting. So my location today is the Gatwick Aviation Museum, which is a wonderful place for photography, but even more wonderfully, we've got Kerry, who's going to be the model for this. So first thing to do is to find some shade. So you want your subject, your model, to be in the deepest shade you can and have a nice bright background. Now ideally that would mean shooting into the sun, but the sun is right overhead, so that's not really a possibility. So I've got Kerry and I've got her standing pretty much on the edge of this line of shade, and then I'm going to shoot over in that direction, and that's going to be my background. Okay, let's take a shot like this and see what the camera does. So let's talk about the camera settings. Now I'm going to shoot in aperture priority mode, and I'm just going to let the camera do its own thing. So f5.6, ISO 200, and we get a shot that looks like this. The camera's tried to average out the shade and the bright parts of the image. It's done a good job at averaging it, but that's not a silhouette. Now to start to take control of the camera settings, I'm going to use the exposure compensation, the little plus minus button, and I'm going to change it to -1 exposure compensation. Now when I take this shot, this time Kerry is a little bit darker, but so is the sky. Basically everything is a little bit darker. I don't mind the sky being too dark because I think it was too bright before. So with that in mind, what if I use -2? Well, -2 will be even darker still. Again, the sky is darker, but now Kerry is that much darker as well. And now we're starting to get into the territory of a good silhouette. Now there's a couple of things that we can do as photographers with the camera to make a better silhouette. There's also things you can do with your subject to improve your silhouettes. The first one is what they're wearing. So Kerry has dark clothes on basically, and the darker the clothes, the darker they're going to look in the picture, the more it's going to look like a silhouette. That kind of makes sense. The other thing is props. If you're going to use some props in your pictures, they need to be graphic shapes that are easily identified as a silhouette. And with that in mind, I've got something for you. Hold on. There we go, that's for you. So I borrowed this from the museum. It's one of their bicycles, and it has a fantastically graphic shape. Bicycles, we can spot a silhouette of a bicycle and know what it is. So let's take some shots like that. So we're going to do exactly the same as before. Let's start with the 0 setting. I know that's going to be too bright, but we might as well take it anyway, just to be sure. And then I'm going to go down to -1. And then -2 on my exposure compensation. So those are going to give me a nice choice of images, and you could stop there. But there's one extra thing that's going to elevate this shoot to the next level. It's one of my favorite things to include in photography. It's a bit of smoke. So we've got Sam putting some smoke in behind Kerry, and this works really nicely. Again, I'm going to use my exposure compensation to try and bag a few shots. So smoke works really well, but it works even better if you can backlight it. Now, backlighting might be the sun coming in from behind, but then of course we're back to beginning or end of the day shots. I don't have that luxury, so I'm going to go get a flash and light it with flash. So I've got my flash, I'm going to point it at the back of Kerry, facing where I'm shooting from, and just a little way behind, something like that. Let's turn it on, and let's take some shots like this. So I've got to trigger the flash somehow, and to do it, I'm using the Flashpoint Zoom Mini O. O for Olympus, which is the camera I'm using here. And the reason I'm using this trigger is it'll allow me to do high-speed sync. So I've switched from aperture priority to manual mode, and I've dialed in settings that are giving me 2 stops under exposure for the ambient light. Now that's around about 4,000th of a second at f4. It looks like this without smoke, but of course it's the smoke that makes all the difference, so let's add some smoke into the scene and we'll take some more pictures. The key here is to keep taking pictures because you don't know which one of these smoke shots is going to be the best, and we're going to Photoshop them together at the end, so keep snapping away. As long as your model doesn't move, you should get a good series of pictures that can be Photoshopped together really easily, and we're going to do that right now. This is one of those techniques where you really could stop at almost any point along the road and still get a great picture in its own right. And in this case, well, I'm going to combine the smoke together, but of course you don't have to do that. But have a look at my pictures and perhaps you'll see why. So these are the smoky pictures I've chosen, and they were all taken from the same few, well, minute or so of time, so there's no real change other than the smoke is in a different position. I had Sam wave the smoke machine up and down to get that effect. Now I need to get these 5 images and join them together in one single one, each one being its own layer, and the quickest and easiest way of doing that is to go to File and then come down to Scripts, and on Scripts you'll find something called Load Files into Stack. Now here it's a matter of adding in the open files, and if you weren't using a tripod you could try to automatically align them, but I was, so I'll just click the OK button and that'll take the 5 images and make one new image with 5 layers. Now I can see that each of these layers has a different type of smoke, and I want to combine this smoke where we have lots on the left with this one where it's all behind Kerry. Now I'm going to do that using layer masks, which I will find under Layer and then down to Layer Mask and Reveal All. Now that's one way of doing it. The other way is going down to this small layer mask icon on the layers panel, which is how I'll be doing it from now on. Now a layer mask is this white rectangle right here, and the way it works is you paint with the opposite colour to cut through the layer. So I've got the paintbrush. I'm going to come down and make sure my foreground colour is black. If yours isn't, just press D followed by X, and then I can just paint over this area where there's that smoke that I need to add in. And we can just add that into the shot. There you go. Fantastic. Okay, that's one layer done. I think there was a bit there actually. Yes, there is. We'll add that in too. I'm going to add in some more smoke by first of all merging these layers together. So let's go to Layer, and then towards the bottom you'll find one called Merge Down. Not the other two, it's Merge Down that you want, and that will combine the top layer, the active layer, with the one directly below. So now I'm down to 4 layers, and if I flip this off for a second I can see that the next layer adds smoke over here on the right. So let's do exactly the same thing. I'll add a layer mask and I'll just paint over that area, and that's just going to add that little layer of smoke in as well. Okay, let's merge those down by going to Layer and then down to Merge Down and repeat the process. Let's flip it off for a second. Okay, this adds quite a bit of smoke over here where I'm missing it. That's lovely. I'll add in a layer mask and I'll just paint that in. Now the joys of layer masks is if you go wrong, you can always go back again by changing from black as your foreground colour to white, either the little button or press the X key to flip them around, and you can repair things really quickly. Okay, so layer, merge down, we're nearly there. We've got one more to go. That adds some smoke at the bottom on the right. Let's add that in like so. There you go. Pretty good. I'm happy with that. Now, I could stop here. Again, that was my plan when I took these pictures. This is where I was going to stop. But the beautiful thing about photography and post-processing is, well, sometimes you get ideas that you hadn't thought of at the time of taking the pictures. Like this, for example. So let's make sure this is fully merged down by going to Layer and then Merge Down again. And this time I'm going to add in some mist. And I'm going to add my own mist by going to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. So you need to be in Photoshop CC or Lightroom CC, and when you do, you go to the Effects option, and here you'll find something called Dehaze, which is designed for cutting through smoke and haze. And it actually looks quite good, but if you go into a negative direction, you're going to add in some smoke, or at least haze, of your own. And I think that adds that misty morning feel at the Aviation Museum. I really like that, and with a few other adjustments, there it is. my final picture is completed. Well, that was a great fun shoot to do, and getting a silhouette in the middle of the day sounds like it might be a challenge, and it was. That's all part of the fun of photography. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please leave me a comment below. But more importantly, if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to click on the subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching. Woo! Oh.